Good morning and welcome to another episode of Behind the Number brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Allie Russell.
And I'm Carolina Sample.
And we have guest Max Wright here today to just kind of go into some of the adversities that you may face as a collegiate athlete and how they can potentially affect your mental health. And before we get in, Max, we just want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes,
it's good to
how
be
are
here.
you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Spring ball started up.
Yeah, so exciting, which we can't wait to talk more about that.
I know. I'm about to get all into it.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
No, but we love Max. Just to tell you guys a little bit more about him, Max is from Katy, Texas, attended Taylor High School, correct?
Yes.
MFND,
Mustang
yes.
Never
Okay,
Dies.
yeah.
There you go.
I don't know,
good.
CPOE. Hold on, I'm also from Katy.
Yeah.
Cougar Nation.
So you came in 2018, right? We're in the
Did.
same class.
I'm old.
Okay,
I'm
2018ers.
really old, yeah.
Wow.
So Max won Special Team Newcomer Award his freshman year, had his first career touchdown in 2020 versus South Carolina. I remember watching that. I was so happy for you.
I do too.
Earned
so
the Unselfish Leadership Award at the Team Banquet 2021, was named team captain in 2022. And also last season won Aggie Heart Award, the highest honor for a football senior on the team. Congratulations.
Yay, that's awesome.
While also
Appreciate
earning the Offense's Leadership Award and Senior Academic Award. So you've
All
had
kinds of accolades.
I know.
Goodness.
A long
Thank
list
you.
over
Long
here for me to
list.
read off
Wow, I make you
of.
feel good about myself.
Yeah.
Wow, this is great. Thanks.
Yes. So you've had a great career so far. So just to get us started, we know you kind of have a unique story in your collegiate career and collegiate journey, excuse me. Tell us about your experience and maybe what word would you use to describe it?
If I had to use one word, to be honest, it'd be adversity. I think coming in as the defensive end back in 2018, I thought that was gonna be the position I played, and that was gonna be it. But sometimes things don't go to plan, and switching positions to offense and having to learn how to block and how to run routes and stuff from defensive end to tight end was a lot, and just that whole process, having to relearn how to do things, kind of. So probably adversity, in a good way though.
Yeah.
I'm super thankful for the journey that I've had, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah. I think that's something that a lot of people don't recognize. For myself, my transition between positions was not as dramatic because you guys are learning to detail so many things. Where in soccer, it's not like that. It's not
the technicalities are the same and like the skills are all the same.
Yes.
It's more like logistics.
You have to switch your mindset.
How you see the game.
Yeah,
more
offensively, defensively.
Yeah.
And there was a time period for myself, I came in as a forward. One time I was outside mid, but you're on the defensive line. I was next to Carl, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of stressful, Like it's hard to switch the mentality sometimes. So run us through what that piece in itself was like, how you had to kind of switch that mentality aspect of, okay, I'm going from defense to offense, and what that looked like for you.
Man, it was wild. To be honest, I had no idea what to expect. As a defensive player, we don't really have any type of insight into what the offense is running, how plays are like schemed, if that makes sense, how any of that works. So like I'm coming from the defensive side of the ball where like the only thing I have to worry about for a play is a one-word play.
Right.
And it'd be like paint. And that tells me what I got to do.
Yeah.
Everything.
Crazy.
And that's it. Versus I come to offense and there's like 3-page papers for like plays that I got to learn. Like it's logistically speaking in terms of like what I had to know on the field was so much more than what I did on defense. But, I honestly loved the transition. I really enjoyed it. I feel like I was learning more about the game of football than I ever had on the defensive side of the ball, especially in Coach Fisher's offense. His offense is so in-depth and so detailed that you get to see every single angle of the game that you may not get to see from the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, there were some hard parts of the switch. Having to learn how to run routes was interesting for a while.
Was that your first time? Like, have you ever been in any offensive position at all?
So kinda. In high school, I had done like tight end stuff, but in high school it was more like they'll flex me out and just throw me a fade ball. Or
It's
like,
a change of pace too coming
yes.
here.
Yeah, it's a change of pace in terms of in high school, and I think y'all can relate to this. In high school, you're probably the best player from your area, the best player in your district. You're everyone that you kind of play around. You're just generally better than, and it's not mean to those guys, but it's just kind of the truth. You come here, well, everyone's that same guy. So like switching kind of put me at a point where I'm like, okay, I have to not just learn this new position, but I also have to catch up enough to where I can excel and play this new position at an elite level.
Yeah.
So learning that whole process was a lot of time watching film, a lot of time just like trying to learn the ins and outs, but it was good, and I enjoyed it. but it was definitely hard.
Yeah. Well, you did it, and
successfully.
Successfully. We kind of talked about your first touchdown. So, kind of first off, a question is, did that play to your advantage? Like coming from defense, coming to offense, to an offensive position, did that play to your advantage at all in seeing the game? Because I feel like, I don't know, is it common for offensive players to know how to read defense, or for defensive players to know how to read an offense?
Yeah, so it definitely worked to my advantage in kind of a weird way. So as a defensive end, a lot of the stuff that I'm reading is very like within 3 feet of me. So like if I'm a defensive end, I'm reading like a tackle's knee. If I see his knee hitch out a certain way, I know which direction he's maybe going to go. Or if I'm, I don't know, reading, if I'm keying a tight end who's trying to block me. All the stuff that I'm looking at on the defense side of the ball is very like up close, personal. Like this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking in the backfield, and that's kind of it. Well, the switch to offense kind of came at a completely different. I had to see everything in Coach Fisher's offense. So I got to see if it's 3 down or 4 down. So I got to see how many down defensive linemen there are. I got to see how many safeties are up there. I got to see if it's cover 1, cover 3, cover 2. Like all the different ins and outs of what the entire defense is doing. So that in like capacity that I had to be able to have every single play was much different than, lining up. And sometimes at the end, you can just be like, I'm gonna go get the ball. Yeah. That's all I got to do. If it's like 3rd down and long, I can just line up on the edge and be like, okay, I'm going to go. But at tight end, every single play was so intricate. I honestly enjoyed it where and I enjoy it now where it's like, there's so many little nuances of the game that you can use your advantage whenever you play on the offensive side of the ball that can change a game completely.
100%.
Yeah, I love the switch, and I love playing tight end. I miss playing DN. I miss getting a sack. I miss like that whole energy of just let's go freaking get the ball. Yeah. But like in the same sense, I think it helped me out because coming from defensive end, I was a physical defensive end. That's what I tried to be, was someone who could set an edge. Well, coming into block defensive ends, I kind of look at them like I'm you. So like I think that I can beat you in a block every single play. So my goal is to block, not just like block you and get in the way, but like my goal is to block.
Yeah, really block.
I'm not, dude, like, you know what I mean? And then also like, learning the passing aspect of the game, just trying to like, I don't know. That was probably the hard thing. The passing side of the game, that was like, all right, I gotta, I'm basically a baby giraffe out here. I'm trying to like learn how to run routes and stuff, but the physicality of blocking I was good with. So,
yeah. I think that's cool. It's so interesting also when you do switch and you're able to gain such a different perspective. That's so helpful because I remember like, again, going back and forth, the switch was different. I was like offense to defense. But then when I did have opportunities to go back to offense after that, it was so helpful because my mentality then is like, okay, I almost know what they're thinking. Yeah. Like I have an idea of how they're coming at me. So I can then use that to my advantage.
Right.
That's the best way to like break it down is I always knew what I didn't want to happen to me and where I didn't want someone to get on me as a defensive player. So like, like if saying soccer, if you don't want people, I don't know how soccer really works that well, but I imagine there's certain situations or certain places that people can get on you that can make you a little, okay, they got me. Yeah. You know what I mean? As an offensive player now, I look at the defensive lineman, I'm like, okay, I can tell based off alignments where this guy's supposed to be. How can I beat him to that spot? I know he's going to try and beat me there. So knowing that ahead of time and knowing like, okay, I know how he's going to shoot his hands. I know how he's going to want to get his hands placed on me. I know what I can do to counter it. Yeah. I've been that guy. I've been there. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's much easier to predict and see things from that light whenever you've done it versus just like, oh, okay, I think he's going to do this. And I think I know how his hands are going to shoot. It's really cool to like have that switch and be able to like use so much of it.
Yeah.
So also helps some of the younger guys too.
I feel like we've all kind of experienced, I even experienced a little bit of a position change from like center to outside. It wasn't drastic, but it was like you said, the mindset, like what I could do as a center back in the center and in defense, little bit less freedom. You kind of have to be more conscious versus outside. You're in a more of attacking. So it is all about the mindset. And then I feel like once you get into that mindset and logistically, then you kind of polish up like the technique behind it.
And it provides confidence.
Yeah, it gives you kind of confidence. So that's very well said.
Yes. And I also am not trying to come off stalkerish, but if I do know correctly, you tore your ACL in high school.
I tore both of them in high school.
Both of them in high school, which you and Carl could have sympathy and empathy for each other. Carl tore hers in high school too, but
nice.
I get you, Max.
Yes. And so I've heard from Carl and I've heard from you how like that is difficult. And you're in high school, you're not as mature as you are now when dealing with adversity. And honestly, the first adversity when it comes to injury is typically the hardest because you've never faced it before. It's not to say it gets easier, but that's the first, just as of anything, it's typically the most difficult. So what was that like for you kind of having that adversity in high school, but how did that maybe play to your advantage coming here mentally? But then also you got hurt again in college. So kind of run us through what those adversities have been like from you starting back in your high school career.
So, yeah, man. Adversity for me has kind of been something that, I don't know. Yeah, like from the sports aspect, like my first adversity that I faced was in high school when I tore my ACL.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like having to learn how to heal and learn how to like recover for something, that's been something that I've been dealing with since I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know? So I got in an accident whenever I was a child where I almost lost my leg. 7 surgeries,
Oh
spent
my
time at
gosh.
Texas Children's in Houston, like a whole month. So
Wow.
like that process of, okay, like I'm down right now, but like it doesn't mean I have to be out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, like I can have something crazy happen, like having the unhappy triad, tearing ACL, MCL, meniscus, all that, and still bounce back and be fine. So like, while that was my first time facing adversity on the field, I was used to having to recover from something, if that makes sense. But man, it was tough. I was a super highly recruited like freshman, and it was like the first initial 247 that came out, whatever, 24/7, whatever they call it.
24/7.
Yes.
Yeah, 24/7. I don't even look at that stuff anymore.
I know what you're talking about.
But the first one that came out for me, I was like a top 15 guy and like this massive recruit. And then coming into my sophomore year, I'm expecting like, okay, like this is going to be like my come out year where I become like a nationally renowned guy, and I tear my ACL. And that like from the like highest of highs after like having a great freshman year, starting on varsity in 6A Texas football, which is like,
huge.
oh wow, huge. And like everyone sees it as like, oh, it's like going to do all these great things. And then that happens and all the coverage of you just stops in a heartbeat. And it went from like, I was getting asked to like be like in a magazine for like the opening, not the opening, for Vipe.
Yes. Oh yeah,
like,
Vipe Houston.
Yeah, Vipe Houston, shout out. But like asked to like being all like this like stuff for that, and like maybe be like the face of like these things that are coming up, and then like nothing. Yeah. And so like as a what was it, like 15, 16, as like a 16-year-old kid, that happened, I didn't know how to handle it. Like that's the thing that I'm most thankful for like now from that experience. I don't care about the media stuff.
Yeah.
Like, people can say what they want, people can do whatever they want. They don't know me. They don't know anything about my journey. They don't know anything about how hard I work or what I did. So like I don't owe them anything. So like when people put out stuff, or if they don't put out stuff about me, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm gonna try and do what I can on the field and worry about it later. So like I think that's my biggest takeaway from like that adversity time, tearing it my sophomore year, which really stunk. I put on some weight. I got kind of bigger, played defensive end a little bit more, D tackle, and then I lost a little bit of weight my senior year, and then I tore my other one. And like that whole time frame, it was like, okay, you know what? Stuff's gonna happen to me, and I can't always prevent these type of things from happening, but I can control how I react to it.
Yeah.
And I can control how I fix it.
Absolutely.
Sometimes some things are out of your hands, but you just gotta be able to roll with the punches and just see what happens. I think that was the biggest takeaway from the whole entire experience was, look, something's gonna happen. Jimbo has a funny saying. He says, "So what? Now what?" It's like, so what? Now what? So what? It happened.
I like that.
So what? I know. I do like that too. Like, so what? It's out of. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. So what? It's out of my hands. But like, now what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
What am I gonna do?
Okay,
about
we
it?
were here. We were finishing my sentences.
I do that too often. Oh gosh.
It's cool though, because I think, when you can train your mind to like not just like think that way, but truly believe it.
Yeah.
It really does help with any recovery process. There's some guys who've recovered from some crazy things because they have that mindset.
Yeah.
It's super helpful.
I completely agree. I feel like, especially like going through my injury, I tore mine in high school, came in and then had a successful first couple collegiate careers and then tore it again. Yeah. So it kind of gave me that like idea of, or kind of when you get that first initial injury, you're like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to go through this? Or how could this happen to me? You kind of feel like you're singled out.
Why am I the only one?
Like everything's just crashing in on you. But I feel like since those injuries and because of those injuries and what I've learned from them, now whenever any adversity or any challenges come at me, I'm like, I can beat this. Like at the end of it, like it may suck now. In the end, I will eventually be okay. Ultimately, I will be fine and life will ultimately go on. But right now I need to figure out how to navigate this or whatever the situation is. So I feel like kind of what you explained has like I can relate to slightly in a different amount than you can, just of affecting your mindset. It kind of affects your mindset in every challenges that come after that.
Absolutely, yeah.
It is like what you're saying. It's in any uncontrollable, you can always find something to control. Absolutely. And typically that's how you're responding to it. And it's a lot to do with the mental piece. And it's not at all as easy as people think. Like it is I've told my mom throughout my collegiate career here, period, before injury, like it is 80%, 90% mental. The rest of it's physical. Mm-hmm. Like a majority is what's going on inside your head. Absolutely. You add adversity onto that, whether that be playing time, injury, performance anxiety, like add anything onto it, that increases. Yeah. So it's like that is not an easy thing to juggle, and it's a really difficult thing to try to navigate and figure out how you kind of go about fighting that and challenging yourself to overcome those things. Yeah. And so for you, what has that been like when you have had different mental pieces and different things you've had to overcome mentally in regard to the adversities? What would you say for you is helpful in overcoming those things when presented with them?
That's a good question.
It's kind of loaded. Sorry.
No, I think about this stuff a lot. You know, I think that just like you said, 80 of it is probably mental. The other 20 is physical. I don't know, man. I think of it even more. Yeah. I think the mental aspect of it is everything.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's some guys who, and some girls, like in every single sport, single sport, there are people who may not be as athletically gifted, who sometimes perform better than those who are because they play smarter, they play without worrying, and they play without anxiety. They play harder.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. Yeah. Everyone knows a player that they've played against where they're like, man, that they were not as good as me, but they beat me because they did this and this better than me, or this and that better than me. I think, you know, one of the things that I hold on to in trying to sometimes come over that adversity, come over that, you know, anxiety whenever it comes to playing, is just remembering that it's just a game, dude. You got to slow it down. Yeah. You have to slow it down and just relax. Yeah. People sometimes, I don't know, you always hear coaches say, like, you play better whenever you shut your brain off and you just see things for what they are. Stop thinking about everything else that's going on and just play.
Yes, just have fun.
It's the game.
It
seems like such a cliche, but like there has to be like some sort of like real science behind it. Like the clarity in your mind, like clearing the mechanism whenever you're going out there is so important to be able to like really, I don't know, like put your actions together and put everything into where it flows. People talk about like getting into the flow as an athlete. Where it's just
so
like,
true.
There's 100% times in my life where I've been in a game where I've been like, I am like in my flow right now.
Yeah, and it just feels natural.
I'm in that mode. Yes.
You almost get like, I don't know. I laugh about it because there's been some games in the past, I don't know, 2-3 years or whatever, where like I've been so relaxed out there, I'm almost worried, but I'm just in flow. Like I shut everything off. I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, it's just a game. I don't have to do anything to prove myself. I don't have to do anything to prove my worth. My worth is already predetermined by the Lord. I don't have to do anything. Yeah. I can relax and I can just play this game.
Yes.
And once you get to that point, I genuinely feel like that's when athletes begin to take the next step towards like, there's like really good, then there's elite. Yep. When you get that like elite to that point where you can clear the mechanism entirely and be out in the field almost like, man, I don't even like, I'm just out here to have fun.
Yes. Like, it's just a game changer.
It changes everything. It makes practices so much easier. It makes everything less stressful, and it makes games more fun.
Yes. I feel like you just enjoy, like, you kind of, it's like taking a weight off your shoulders when you tell yourself, or you just, or like, you know that feeling when you take a deep breath and then you exhale and your whole body just feels relaxed, and you kind of remind yourself who you are again, and like, I deserve to be here. I don't know. It kind of gives you that confidence aspect as well. And like you said, it can take you to that elite level.
Absolutely.
So I agree with you for sure. Yeah. So go ahead.
Oh, I was just
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say real quick. I think too, like for myself personally, and this, I don't want this to sound negative or bad, but when I do have fun, it's me saying like, I don't need to care about all those things. Like, I don't need to care about the number that's on my back. I don't need to care about like really the position I'm in collegiately. Like, I want to play like I'm 8 years old, having the time of my life and just loving it. Like that's what I want to play for. That's who I want to play for. There came a point in time, and this happened from rehab or from injury, and I was in recovery. I put a picture of myself on my mirror of myself in my little like 5-year-old soccer outfit, you know? And I look at it and I'm like, that's who I go and do this for. Like that little girl who one time was dreaming of this moment, that's who I'm going and like putting in work every single day for. And it's that same idea of like having that joy and fun when playing again, and just having the like, I don't care about anything else, which is not easy, but it's like, and it's not to sound negative, but it's really like, I don't care. I'm here to play, to have fun. And that is 100% when I'm playing my best. And it's like the best feeling in the world.
It 100% is. I don't know how to, like the easiest way to describe it is you just disconnect. You just disconnect.
Yeah.
It's, I'm out there and I kind of have some thoughts sometimes that are kind of, I don't know, this, when you ask about like my mindset and how I go about it to try and like relax my brain or try to like relax myself, I sometimes go into the mindset of like, I literally do not care about anybody who's it's up in the stands. That sounds like weird, you know what I'm saying?
But
like, but like, I have nothing to prove to you.
Yes.
Like, I look up in there, it's like, there's nothing to prove to you.
Yes.
I've done this work and I've worked hard for my teammates and for the people around me.
Yeah.
And like, I don't have to prove myself to someone on Twitter who's going to tweet out, oh, 42 is terrible. He shouldn't be out there, blah, blah, blah. Like, you think, why? Like, that person's probably never going to meet me.
Yes.
Their opinion of me is never going to be said to my face.
Yeah.
And it's not going to affect me.
Yeah.
It should never hold any more weight than what it is just on social media.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's something for me. I feel like that people get so caught up in. Sorry, I don't
No,
know.
you have to keep going.
Yeah, I don't. That's something in my opinion where people get too caught up is the social media things and like revolving around sports.
Yes.
It's so dumb. It's so stupid. Especially as an athlete. Like, dude, I don't look at my stuff very much at all. If I'm tweeting, it's about the basketball team or the baseball team, and then I turn off Twitter.
Yeah.
Because it's such a toxic environment as an athlete to go out and look at these opinions of people who are never going to actually see you put in the work in practice. We're never actually going to see like how hard you've worked to come back from something, or like how much like you've given blood, sweat, and tears to this sport for them to diminish all that hard work that you've had.
To view you as a number.
To view you as a number because you didn't maybe do exactly what they wanted you to do on a play.
Yes.
But they don't.
They
don't understand.
They'll never understand.
And it's like we keep saying, I don't care, not in a bad way. But like, we know you don't mean it in a bad way. We know I don't care. It's not, I don't care as like, in the sense, I don't care about the team. I don't care about the results. I don't care about anything. It's just, I don't care about that outside opinions. I don't care about the outside factors, the uncontrollables that I cannot control and that I have not maybe worked towards or whatever, the people I may not know, because like you said, my teammates know my work ethic, my teammates know my value, my family knows my value. And after that, that's it. Really much it. Like you said, that's it.
Yeah.
It's over.
I don't know. I always think about like in terms of like how many interactions we have with people that we're never going to actually meet ever.
Yeah.
Like you take that part out of your life and you worry about the people who are around you every single day. I feel like it makes your life feel like it has so much more value.
Yeah.
Stop worrying about the opinions of people who you're not going to interact with every single day. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like,
completely.
It sounds kind of selfish in a sense for me to say don't worry about or don't care about them. That's how, I'm just saying like when it comes to your every single day happiness and like your feeling of like playing this game that we love, I'm not going to let anyone like talk to me and actually let it sit. You can say whatever you want to me. I'm like, okay, like, and
agreed.
Like, so what? I don't care.
And this,
I don't know. I think that there's so much of like this mindset to like fulfill the opinions of others in college athletics that people need to like understand that's not how you get to be like, even if your main goal is to be the best athlete you want to be, that's not how you're going to get there. Consistently worrying about the opinion of others is not going to get you to greatness.
No.
Yeah.
It's not.
And I want to talk more about kind of the social media side of things and opinions of people and how it affects your mental health. But real quick, we're going to take a little break to hear our commercial from Academy Sports and Outdoors, and we will be right back.
Welcome back from the break. So Max, we're just gonna get right into it. So we were just kind of talking about social media. We were kind of talking over the commercial too. Tell us about how you handle social media and how the role social media that plays in this sports environment, especially with football, because people will say things and tweet things and maybe not expect you guys to see them, but y'all see them. And then they also have this persona of football and the men that are on the team playing football. Football players are tough. Football players don't care. Football players are all hard and strong, and they have to be rough and tough, and they can handle it, whatever the case is. Let's kind of talk about that and get into that and navigating it all.
Yeah. So, man, it's a lot to unpack. As a college athlete, as y'all know, there's a lot of notoriety that comes with it. You know, I think that everyone who watches this probably follows at least one of us on social media and sees everything that we post in our daily lives. With that like amount of like monitoring almost of what you do in your everyday life, it's tough. Like it's hard in the sense of we have to watch our every single move because one slip up and everything can come crashing down. Yeah. You know, I think that this is kind of a different angle to kind of approach this topic from, but then I'll kind of get into some different things in a little bit. But like, I think about, you know, I won't name any names, but I think about some people who I know personally who have done things where if they were in my shoes would never play college football again, but they have no consequences from what they've done. Yeah. Like there's certain things that happen to college athletes that, you know, get blown up because of the media presence that they have, if that makes sense. Kinda. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, I don't know, as a college athlete with the social media that I have and from what I've learned, I used to be somebody who was on it every day. I used to be trying to post stuff. What can I get out there to get my name out? What can I get out there to go viral? Like what can I do to make my image blow up more? Yeah. But as I've kind of grown and like spent more time in college sports, the media has become less and less important to me. Yeah. And it's almost gotten to the point now where I am like over it.
Which is great.
Yeah. Which is the healthiest mentally that I've ever come to is right now. And it's because I've completely like put that into a separate aspect of my life from sports. Yeah. Like, it's just, there's no like, I don't know. I think this is such a weird way to put it, but there's no like fruit that comes from that. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah. There's no gain. There's no gain from social media. Yeah. Okay. So what? You have 200,000 followers. Good for you. Yeah. Okay. What's your relationship like with the people that you actually interact with in your everyday life? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Yes. Yeah. Tangibly, like what can you show for it to like the people around you? Like, yes. Okay. So what? Like, I personally, I'm not a fan of social media. I don't think that it's necessarily the healthiest thing to get deep dives into. You know, I remember as a freshman, sophomore, you know, after games going on Twitter, looking up in the search box, Max Wright, see what people were tweeting about me, and got to this mindset where like, man, okay, what are they saying about me? Like, what's this person saying about me? And it's like terrible things. Yeah. Like, things that just things I shouldn't be reading as an 18-year-old kid trying to make it in like a college sport. Right. You know? And people don't understand like as much of like insecurities as normal people have in their every single day. Like we have those too, except they're just blown up on a scale where 106,000 people closely monitor me and my teammates every single second of every single game. Yeah. And comment on it and pretty critically on every single move that you make. Yes. But man, I think for, you know, and this is what I try and tell some of the young guys on the team, it's like, look, like you can get as deep into that as you want, you can get as not deep into that as you want. But all I know is from my years here, the people who get too deep into it, it eats them alive. Like it can mess you up. It can put you into a whole different type of struggle in terms of trying to like fulfill the opinions of others. It's just unhealthy. It's not a good mindset to get into.
And I feel like with social media, it's like a rabbit hole. Like you said, it eats you up. And especially with NIL now too, I feel like every athlete, every team is on social media, and the hole is just getting like deeper and deeper and deeper. And so kind of like, can you talk about like how that affects the mentality, I guess, that comes from that, how that can affect your game, how that affects your mentality? I feel like you've had a lot of mental growth, and like you said, starting after games and looking yourself up. Now you don't care about social media in terms of football, because I feel like football players are the players who maybe deal with it most at schools. I feel like, especially here, we're a football school, Texas A&M. The football, like the platform is huge. So it's always all eyes on you guys, like you said, and people critiquing y'all so much. And you can go like, I go look up myself on Twitter after a game, and I'm not probably going to see a lot. Like, honestly, I'm just keeping it real. Like, it's not going to see a lot of opinions. And I feel like football is where you guys get all the opinions from. So kind of talk about how that affects mental health, or what experiences you've gone through, or maybe seen some teammates gone through.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, when you grow up through high school and, you know, you have this blasted in your mind, like this is like how you make it. Like this is like all that you are, is this athlete, you know? Identity. It can create a pretty toxic viewpoint of yourself. You know, I know for me, my first couple of years here, like my sophomore year, had a neck injury that was pretty scary, where I was facing, you know, the end of my career possibly. And I remember getting to that point, and I was like, I don't want this to be done. And it took a lot of time of me thinking about it, and it took a lot of time of me trying to figure out what I was feeling. Yeah. And it was this fear of, man, I don't really know myself. Like, I know me as an athlete. Like, cool. I love when people come up and talk to me about football because that's what I know. I love when people come up, and everyone loves the praise. It's amazing. But you take that out of my life, and you take that out of my life. And back then, you take that out of my life, and I was looking around. I was like, man, I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
I don't know what I stand for, what I like to do. Like, I've never had no free time in college. I don't know what I want to do with myself. Like, you know what I mean? And it got to this point where I was looking around just lost, and I think that comes with the territory of when you inject so much of like this identity issue into these young athletes who are 18, 17, 18 years old, trying to just to like make it. They're just trying to grow up. They're just trying to be their own person. But you tell them this is who you are.
Yeah.
They believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, what else are they going to do?
Well,
Where else
it's
are they
like,
going to turn to?
yeah, it's like, I think that's the time period for a majority of athletes, and especially collegiate athletes. The time period where you face the identity crisis almost is the beginning of college.
Yeah.
So when you are constantly feeding these negative affirmations about a player to them through social media, through different forums, like whatever it may be, when you're feeding those negative things, you're diminishing the way that they value themselves as a person. When the sport that you play, the position you are on the field, and the person you are, completely separate identities.
Yeah.
Those do not play along.
Absolutely.
There's
Yeah,
qualities
they're
of
all
yourself that tie into who you are as a teammate, as a player, as like different things, but it's not who you are. And so I think that that's something where, like Carl was saying, if you go and I look up my name on Twitter after a game, I'm going to see our 2 fans that tweet the game to us. And it's really, and I love seeing it. I'm like, oh, so nice.
Yeah.
But we're not going to see the backlash that you guys see for having one bad play, for having maybe a failed attempt at a catch. If we had a bad touch, no one's going to be on there. Oop, that was the worst touch I've ever seen. It's like things like that don't come with the role that we have as being a female soccer player here. We're just not in that platform. So it is something that I feel like is so important to address because people don't recognize. They just think that they're doing it to vent, to just like relieve the stress that they feel when the team that they love so much isn't doing well, or like just they put so much attention and being fans to these people. But it's like, yeah, that's one thing. Support is one thing, but then diminishing a person's value is another thing. And it's, again, something that we didn't really have to deal with in our position, but I feel like I have so much sympathy for when I look at some of the people who are affected by it and read some of the things that are said after a game, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I'm feeling this way, even reading it, I cannot fathom the way that it affects people mentally. And so it's just something that I feel like is so important to address and should never kind of be slid under the rug in any way. And I'm really thankful that you kind of were able to comment on on it and give firsthand experience too about it. And like before we move on to a little bit more of like a different topic of adversity, is there anything else that you'd like to kind of hit on about that specifically?
It's funny you ask. Yeah, I was just thinking in my head of something else. I just like, this is kind of the best way I try and put it to people who try and understand in terms of like why I get pretty frustrated about, like, I don't know, I have younger teammates who come up to me and it's like, man, I got roasted on Twitter, and I see some of the things that are said about them, and I'm like, as annoyed, frustrated as you are as a fan at the loss or the bad play that they've had, I promise you, the player who messed up or the team that lost is 10 times more upset, feels it more in their heart because they worked for that.
Yes.
They worked for that win.
Yes.
Like, that's what frustrates me. And whenever I look at, you know, some people who tweet out things consistently like, oh, you're garbage, whatever, this and that, like troll accounts. Yeah, I don't care. Like you're a joke. It's whatever. But like guys who consistently critique 18, 19-year-olds in a way where it diminishes the person that they are. I'm like, dude, however hard you've worked for something, this kid's probably worked just as hard, if not harder. And also the physical toll and the mental toll that comes with 106,000 people, more than that. We'll say 1 million people probably watch every single game. Consistently judging who these kids are. Like, dude, I don't care how tough you say you are, it gets to you. Just, I don't know, just as fans, try to remember that these are 18, 19-year-old kids.
I mean, even 21, 22, like
that's still young.
Like,
I'm still very young.
I say like 18, 19 as if that's like the only young, but no. It's
no,
like,
but still, I mean, that's the beginning of when you're like maturing in this collegiate atmosphere and you're figuring yourself out. You're trying to navigate who you are, what your passions are outside of this. And that's something I do want to talk to you about, because I do remember you talking about that before, but you're trying to like navigate everything. And so, when you are thrown all of these things, that's that's the typical age where it's going to be the most confusing.
Yeah.
And that could come at any point, college, professional, high school, but it's like, this is predominantly the time period when you are figuring that out.
Yeah.
And so again, those uncontrollables, it's like, okay, all these things are being thrown at me, but how do I handle it?
Yeah.
Like, how do I figure that out? When you're young, you don't know how.
Yeah.
You're trying, but you're like, no, but I do care. But then you get to a point where you're like, no, I don't.
Maybe I
But
don't.
it takes time
Yeah.
to get there.
And I think it's go
sorry,
ahead.
My bad. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just saying, I
like
think
just
it-
carrying on like, you know, the what happens, you know, as you transition on like different phases of life and stuff like that. You know, I'm gonna sound really funny here. I saw an article that talked about how 80% of NFL players within 3 years of being done in the NFL are broke and depressed, completely
Oh, wow.
broke,
I've-
like claiming
I've-
bankruptcy.
I've heard that.
And it sounds
heard that
kind of
too.
random, but that's just another thing. It's like these guys get so invested into this game, they're willing to risk it all for it because that's what they're told that it's worth.
Yes.
That makes sense?
It's told
Like,
it's who they are.
It's told that this game, you should be willing to completely die for it and risk your entire life for it. It's like, yeah, okay, you know what? To some extent, like I'm putting my life on, like my body on the line, and
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But the well-being and like the after football stuff should be just as important, to be just as focused on
Yep.
for like these young guys,
I
and should be
agree.
just as emphasized as that. It's super important.
Yeah.
It's super critical. Sorry, I was just
No,
thinking
you're
about
fine.
like
I agree.
Because
and
in some cases, I feel like it's all that person has known. Like
Yeah.
maybe their sport, it's maybe all that they've done, all that they've known, all that they're confident in and or comfortable in, and it's just a matter of them being exposed to something else or having the opportunity to learn something else or become passionate about something else and like realizing it's okay to have two passions or it's okay to be passionate about football
Yeah.
and something else, and you can balance both of them. And I think like in sports, I think that is something that players, teammates, and coaches, advisors, trainers we can all improve in is recognizing that it's all about balance and
Yeah.
sports is not your life.
yeah,
And
it's
that's
not.
that's something too that I kind of wanted to talk to you about because again, I feel like I sound like a stalker, but Max and I have been in an environment where we talked about these
Yes,
things, so
yeah.
I have some background myself.
yeah.
And I think that kind of with what you're talking about, you're like, okay, you go through this time period and you're like, who am I? Which is a really hard to navigate in the moment, but it provides so much when it comes to new passions that form, different hobbies that come about. So it's like you face this adversity, but there's so many blessings that arise from it. And there's so many things you learn about yourself. And that could be injury, identity crisis, like anything. What for you, and I kind of already know them, but I want everyone to know, what for you have been like those hobbies and different passions that you've picked up, which people may not know or think that are your passions and hobbies?
So surprisingly enough, I'm a huge supporter of like just try everything. Like especially as I don't know, as a college athlete, like, dude, this game is right now probably the forefront of what you're gonna do, and that's okay. But finding other things that I love and that I actually enjoy doing has made football so much more enjoyable, if that makes sense. When your life's completely consumed by something, it's not as important or not as valuable because it's all that you do.
Yes.
When you can split up your time and find other hobbies that you genuinely enjoy, I've like loved every part of being able to kind of branch out and find some new things. But some of those things, like I randomly got exposed to photography, which is weird and funny.
You never know.
And I'd never know
Yes.
that. But so my sister, Mackenzie, shout out, love her. Her fiance, Grayson Gregory, is a big time photographer. And he's an absolute stud. Love him. I like hung out with him a couple times. I was like, man, saw what he did. And I was like, wow, this guy's really talented. It looks kind of cool. Maybe I should try it out. I've fallen in love with it. I love it. Have my own camera. I have like a couple lenses, do my own little thing, like blah, blah, blah. I have a little like Instagram page.
It's so cool.
Like, but it's something where
follow
it's
you.
like, it's people. Thanks, I appreciate that.
I'll let you follow
Me too.
Yeah. But it's something that's important. It's realizing like, hey, like Football Max is Football Max, but like I'm also just like Max Wright from Katy, Texas.
Yeah.
That's who I am, and I'm just some kid who grew up and went to Texas A&M and enjoyed my time there. And you know what? In a few years, you know what? Hopefully, I play in the NFL for a while, but that whole part of me will be in the past eventually.
Yeah.
And I'll be left with who I am outside of the sport.
And things that you love to do on
and
a
like,
daily basis.
Absolutely. And like finding those things now and finding things where it's like, you know what? I enjoy photography. I enjoy hunting. I enjoy bow hunting. I enjoy, I don't know, a variety of different other things. Like I'm hoping to start a podcast, like different things that maybe I wouldn't have tried in the past because it takes so much time with football. It's been a huge blessing because it's helping me understand better who I am and helping me also realize and be okay with the fact that football's going to come to an end, and all sports come to an end for every single person. And the sooner you come to terms with that, the sooner you'll truly appreciate the time that you have in it, and also prepare yourself for that because it's a huge adjustment. As much as people want to say, oh, like you'll be fine whenever the game's done, there is going to be a time frame when you will be lost and not know what to do. And I haven't gotten there yet. But I know that happens because I've seen my friends go through it. You know,
we're like retired.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, exactly. Y'all know. But there's
right now.
It's like the uncertainty where it's like, man, I've done this my entire life, and now it's like I got to go in the real world, and this sport thing isn't who I am anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just like the unknowing, or like that's not the right word. I guess the uncertainty of your future kind of just falls in on you, and it's like, okay, you're in the real world now, and it's like all these things that they haven't taught us are falling on us. So how to do taxes, how to do
finances,
But it's like it's a real thing. I think that adjustment is huge, and taking the time now to prepare, you know, as a young man and as these young athletes is super important to make that transition easier, and also make that transition. Sounds crazy, but safer. Like, I know a lot of guys who are out of football who are struggling, who are having a hard time because it got ripped out from under their feet. And, you know, the feeling of, I don't know, inadequacy because they couldn't do what they thought they were going to do. And, you know what? When you're gone from sports, Jimbo, this is a funny saying that Jimbo has. He says, put a fist in a bucket of water, pull it out. The hole that's left is how much the world's going to miss you when you're gone. It's a crazy.
There's no hole.
There's no hole.
It's kind of scary.
It's kind of scary, but it's like it's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Like this business, when you're out of it, when you're done, it's the next guy up. That's what it is.
Who's next?
Who's next?
That's true.
And
I love that you said that.
Yeah, it's a true mindset, and it's a mindset you're gonna have to come to terms with. Because no matter how good you are, you can't play forever.
Yeah.
I mean, LeBron's kind of insane. He plays for a long time. But
except LeBron.
But seriously,
until
though,
Bronny goes on the court.
Yeah, absolutely. But like it's important to realize like, hey, this comes to an end, and what you're left with is who you are as a person. So might as well start investing into that now, and don't wait until you're thrown onto the ground and you're on all fours. Like, where the heck do I go? Yeah. Figure it out now. Be bold with what you want to do. Figure out new things. Try new things.
Yeah, I love that you said that. That's something I feel like I'm passionate about, and a big was kind of like forced to learn through my injury, and that's one of the biggest things I'm thankful for is realizing. Like when I got injured my second time, I'm like, okay, I'm putting all my baskets into soccer for me to get injured, especially with injuries. They're so uncontrollable. You don't know when they're coming. You don't know what time. You can never be prepared. So that's when I kind of started getting involved in Blueprint, and I loved it. And it was just like became a hobby of mine and something else that I was passionate about and had never done before. But I tried it, took a leap of faith, and loved
look at it now.
It's been so successful. It's been cool to watch it all grow. And I feel like now it's part of like, I put it on myself as a responsibility going through that collegiate experience and those injuries and all the lessons that I've learned through it is like instilling that into younger athletes and like athletes that maybe look up to me or athletes that are on the team right now that are just a couple years behind me, but will eventually get to the point of graduation and having to figure out where they go, is just trying to help them navigate like kind of that identity or their passions, their hobbies, what they want to do, and kind of think about that fact for when they have a life with no soccer or when they have a life without football. Who are they going to be? What are they going to do? And like, where are you going to go? And the possibilities are endless once you prepare the right way. So,
well said.
Well said. That was very good.
Thank
you. I was cheesing really hard at you the whole time, and I'm like, people are probably like, why is she smiling that hard?
Thank you. I'm gonna follow. Like now I know you're a photographer. I'm gonna be like, if you need a model, Max.
Hey, I'll take some pictures.
You need a practice. Let me look.
But seriously though, like I think you worded it perfectly, and like in the reality of it, where it's like, you know, take a leap of faith and you found something else that you're passionate about. You know, I think what happens with people who are in athletics who get out and don't find something to push that drive that they have towards something, they just don't realize that that's what it is. This longing for something and this longing for, you know, some sort of work, if that makes sense. Like, you know, I look at every single day with football, and I go into every single day, I'm like, all right, I'm going to beat this day. Every single day that you face, try and beat it. And I think whenever guys get out and they look at every single day, the not having the schedule layout, not having the, you know, the what's the word I'm looking for? Not having the repetitive days where everything's kind of set out for you. You know what you're gonna do, and you know you're gonna have to attack something every single day.
Yeah.
When that's kind of taken away, and you're just kind of looking at the world, and you're like, I don't know, like I have all this pent up like drive and like energy and like willingness to like go out and be great at something. I just don't know where to put it.
Yeah,
Competitiveness, exactly. Thank you. Competitiveness. Having that competitiveness that you want to push towards something, you know, I think that's a huge like it's almost addictive.
Yeah.
That competitive edge.
The nature.
The nature of it's built
you.
into you, and whenever you lose that, you're like, man, like what do I do now?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to work a desk job because that's not competitive. I don't want to do all this other stuff. So they look at life and they're like,
what now?
This sucks. I have to make it in football because that's the only thing that can be competitive, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not true. Like there's so much more to life
Yeah.
that you can do and thrive in and be happy in. And like, I don't know. Each person's walk is their own. And my personal walk I've been so thankful that I've been trying to dive more into my walk with Christ, trying to dive more into, you know, my relationship with my girlfriend, my relationship with my family. You know, there's so many more assets, or not assets, there's so many more facets of life that are more important than football, more important than any game that will ever be played, that it needs to be emphasized more to these younger guys. Because in my opinion, whenever I felt the most freedom on the field was whenever I made the game less important, if that makes sense.
I love that you said that, because even when I was talking to Allie and like in preparation for this interview yesterday, like when I hear your name and when I think of you, Max, I think of someone who just is so invested in their relationships and just cares so deeply about people.
She did. That was like one of the first
things
things she brought
I was
up.
like, we should like I just see you as someone that just values relationships so much, and you just hold like kind of wear your heart on your sleeve when it comes to the people that you care about so much, and just admire you for that and just being so prideful in it too.
Yes, and I love that too, and I think that that's something. There's been instances where in friendships that I have and relationships that I have with other athletes, I'm like, I try to emphasize that aspect that one day the game's gonna end and you have so many important things that are gonna remain constant. That's your relationships, that's other hobbies that are gonna stick. And like, especially I think the relationship aspect of don't get so caught up in thinking that this is all that you have, because the day that it's gone, you're going to wish you had everything else back.
And it's going to hurt so much more than it needs to.
You
know, because you're just not prepared.
And also I feel like taking advantage of being in a place like I sit here right now being a little retired gal, and I'm like, I wish that I still have my soccer friends I could see every day. And it's like not sitting in that time when you have it and taking full advantage of being in a place. You get to have those relationships given to you every day. You have time carved out of your schedule, not by your own free will, to go and be with these people. And it's like when it's done, you're like, dang, I wish that I could go be with those people at practice right now. And so I think the area of not taking things for granted, taking full advantage of what you're given every single day in your sport, that's outside of just playing, is also so important. And it allows for so many incredible things to come of it once the sport's done too. And absolutely. I think one more thing I want to ask you is just kind of like in synopsis of everything that we've talked about and different adversities that you have faced and things you've gone through, what do you think are some of the greatest lessons that you've learned that you are going to take forward into the rest of your life?
Wow.
That was deep. Sorry.
Great. No, I love that. That's a great question. Honestly, when I've looked at the growth that I've made over the past 4 years, it's funny. I'm reading through the book of Ecclesiastes right now in the Bible, and basically it's King Solomon. He's writing basically saying that he's tried everything under the sun and it's all fleeting. There's no real fruit to it, if that makes sense. And reading through that and trying to understand why he's saying all these things, it gets to the point where I sit down and I'm like, man, you know, some of these things that have consumed my entire life and have been everything that I am don't have to be that. They don't, and they're not going to be for my entire life. Yeah, that makes sense. Like you go through seasons of life where you have things that take up the main portion of your life. So like right now for me, it's college athletics. Yeah. You know, I look at my brother who's 27 and he has a child. He's a kid, little Nolan, my little nephew. Like that's his life right then. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think that finding appreciation in the seasons of life and holding on to those and appreciating those for the time frame that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it's super important to value where you are and where the Lord's blessed you and taken you,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding that, you know, the path that He has for you may not make any sense at all. When I was a sophomore and I hurt my neck and I had a doctor tell me, hey, you should probably never play again, I never would have thought that I would have switched to tight end and then had some of the great blessings that I've had to me happen on the side of the ball.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was looking at that like, why in the world am I possibly going to make this switch? That makes no sense. You know, but I think just my biggest takeaway to everyone is your worth's already determined. The path is already decided. And at the end of the day, just trust. Just trust that it's all going to work out. Because it will.
I know.
Yeah.
That might be your.
I was gonna say
hey.
we don't need no cheesy tagline.
Yeah,
That was
I think
nothing
that's the
cheesy about that. That
tagline.
was good.
Yeah.
Say it again. Say it again.
So I said, your worth's already decided. The path is already set. And what was the last part? Just trust that it's all going to work out.
Yeah, I love.
Yeah.
I think that's the tagline in itself.
I think so.
Well, I mean, it's just truth to it. You
Yeah.
know? I mean, you know, the anxiety that goes into every single day, it can really be resolved whenever you find true believing in, hey, you know what? The path's set for me. It's the best path. It's already determined by God. You know, I just got to trust that He's going to guide me in the right direction.
Yeah.
You know, also, this is like, I know I'm bringing a lot of like my faith into this, but
Hey,
I
Yeah,
really do feel like over the past like 6 months, especially, this is where I have found the most growth in my happiness, the most growth in my relationships, the most growth as a human being has been whenever I've dove deeper into that area of my life and trying to understand, you know, why I trying to understand why I am the way that I am and why like I value the things that I do and what the Lord's given me and what He's taken away from me and what He's taught me throughout like my young life. You know what I mean? I'm such a firm believer that the more you chase after Him, the more He'll reveal to you. And the more He reveals to you, the more blessed you'll be because you'll understand how blessed you are. And it's a huge part of it. You know, I know everyone's not necessarily a Christian, you know, that this is just how I feel about it. And this is, you know, I feel like, you know, the relationship that I've had with Him has been like the most beneficial thing that I've ever had and has made every facet of life, including sports, better.
Yes.
So
I love that. And that's
Me
a part of who
too.
you are.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
a
is.
huge,
And
it's
that's
a huge part of it.
important to
Don't
share. And
apologize.
I absolutely love
I'm not
that.
going to apologize about that. You know,
No,
that's
you're fine.
yeah, that's how I feel.
Yes,
and
I
that's,
love it.
I think it's
The key word I loved about the quote you said earlier was just like, this is just what stuck out to me in seasons and just recognizing seasons don't last forever.
they don't.
And recognizing when you're ending a new season and entering a new one.
Yeah.
You might have to have different approaches going into it. And I feel like that's something that we're kind of going through now as our season of soccer has ended. We're entering a new season and we're in the early stages of it, but we're taking it day by day and just figuring it out. And it could have been so easy for us to be like, oh, this sucks. Like, I miss soccer and I don't know, just angry or whatever.
Yeah.
But once you're able to recognize it, like, I think it's an easier transition.
My mom always says, don't be sad it's over, be happy it happened.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's exactly what this time's about, what entering a new season's all about.
Yeah. And the uncertainty, there's always
Yes.
going to be some sort of thing at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
There always will be.
Oh, we've had, I
Yes,
love this
this has been so
episode.
great.
We've had
Yeah.
such good
Yeah.
conversation.
No, thank y'all for having me.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with viewers,
No,
audience,
no.
or talk about? Do you
Like,
want
we
to do
did
a
it
cheesy
all.
tagline?
I don't really have anything cheesy, honestly.
I don't think you
tagline-wise.
should. that was very not cheesy, and I loved it.
Yeah,
So
what you
it's
said,
okay
I
for a
think
little
was
switch up.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do too. All right. Well,
Thank y'all for having me.
thank you, Max. Of course, it was a great time. Another great episode, a great conversation. Thank you for just being so transparent with your views and perspectives on everything, and just really like opening up to us and telling us who you are. That's why we have this platform. That's why we wanted to do this. And you're just helping us out. So thank you again for sharing us your story about behind the number 42. And this episode was brought to us by Academy Sports and Outdoors. And we will see you guys next week.